أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله أوله بلا أول كان قبله وآخره بلا آخر يكون بعده الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا حبيبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أبي القاسم محمد وعليه الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين ولعنة الدائم على أعدائهم وغاصبي حقوقهم ومنكري فضائلهم ومناقبهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم، والسلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. It's a very sorrowful and the saddest night on the face of earth that I have ever faced in this fashion. We, as the lovers of Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, and inshallah the followers of Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, would carry ourselves tonight and tomorrow in a fashion that reflects the greatest loss that we could ever have in our life. Being mindful of our speech, being mindful of our discussions, being mindful of our actions. Indeed, insan is forgetful, and that's where perhaps the name insan comes from. Insan from nisyan. Nisyan means somebody who's forgetful, and insan is from that same root. We may be forgetful of this great tragedy happened on the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, but however, we should remind ourselves over and over again, and all of these activity and gatherings and our clothes is for that purpose, to be mindful of a great loss, of a great tragedy. So not engaging ourselves in any sort of merry-making, joyous talk or joking or laughing. We should be in a state of huzn, in a state of sorrow. This is the particular reason why our senior parents, grandfathers, and the culture that exists within the Asian community and even in Iran, and perhaps I'm not too aware of the Iraqi tradition as such or Arab tradition as such, of not giving salams on the day of Ashura. However, some may be critical of saying that, oh, what is this, not giving salam? But this is actually to point out to the intensity of pain, point out to the intensity of that state of bewilderment, that state of shock. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. For example, if I leave someone, if I lose someone who is very close to me, I'm not in a state of salam or wa alaikum salam. That's how I am. So in order to carry out that tradition, in order to remind us of that, for example, these not giving salams on the day of Ashura, or, for example, rolling the sleeves up, leaving the button open, these are all symbolized as that a person is in a state of shock, in a state of sadness and huzn, that he is not normal. And this should be something that is natural. But however, these symbols are required, these actions are required to reach the purpose. When we say in sajda Subhana Rabbiyal A'la wa bihamdi, do we really mean Subhana Rabbiyal A'la wa bihamdi? Why there is astaghfar? Imam Khomeini in Adab al-Salat, as we said, that every actions of ours that we perform have a deeper meaning. In that book he writes, when you go in sajda, what do you say? You say Subhana Rabbiyal A'la wa bihamdi. You get up from sajda, what do you say? You say Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu ilayh. Why is there astaghfar there? Because the first sajda that you have done, when you are saying Subhana Rabbiyal A'la wa bihamdi, you're seeing yourself that you are saying Subhana Rabbiyal A'la wa bihamdi. And that's not a perfect sajda, where you should see yourself as saying Subhana Rabbiyal A'la wa bihamdi. But rather, you should be annihilated. Rather, you should be fana in the Zat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Therefore, you do Astaghfirullah Rabbi wa atubu ilayh. And then you go back in sajda again, and there is no longer you, but there is only Allahu Wahid. Right. So therefore, we perform ruku, we perform sajda, we say Allahu Akbar so many times in our prayers. But where is our mind? It's all over the place. Maybe one of that Allahu Akbar have certain type of meaning, or one of that sajda have certain type of meaning. But nobody asks us to stop praying, because you don't really mean Subhana Rabbil A'la wa bihamdi or Azim wa bihamdi or Allahu Akbar. You shouldn't pray. We have to perform the prayer. So therefore, not giving salams or carrying ourselves in a certain fashion, it is because that spirit of huzn, of sorrow, of the pain and difficulties, the tragedy that befell upon Ahl Bayt alayhi salam, we should feel that. Not wearing shoes, walking on, barefoot on the day of Ashura, putting, dust on face. All of these things are symbolism for a higher purpose. And it requires of us to teach our children, not rather be critical of that. There's a purpose for that. That's why the ulama and our grandfathers and fathers, generation after generation, have carried this out. So therefore, tonight is one of those nights. It's a night of sorrow, it's a night of huzn, it's a night of gham, that we should be mindful of that. And we should carry ourselves in that fashion. And on the day of Ashura, obviously, many of us don't work, and that's the way it's supposed to be. That one must not accumulate any sort of risk, any sort of, commodity or staples, but rather must be in a state of huzn and sorrow and thinking about Ahl Bayt alayhi salam. That's the purpose of it. Why? Because as we recite in Ziyarat Ashura, هَذَا يَوْمٌ تَبَرَّكَتْ بِهِ بَنُو أُمَيَّةَ. The day of Ashura was considered to be the day of barakah, blessing for the Banu Umayyah. لِقَتْلِهِمُ الْحُسَيْنِ. Because of the killing of Imam Husayn, for the sake of killing of Imam Husayn. They announced to be the day of barakah, that, it's a blessed day for us. Right, that we have killed Abu Abdullah Husayn. And in order once again to uphold that barakah and blessing, somehow they transferred that with some false narrations, forged narrations, ja'ali, as we will say, narrations such as the day of Ashura is the day where the Ark of Noah reached its shore, or the day of Ashura is the day that Hazrat Ibrahim was protected from the hellfire, so on and so forth. These are all weak and fake and forged narratives that we have in order to maintain that barakah, in order to maintain that celebration, so that through this celebration one will forget and one will not remember or recollect the shahadat, the martyrdom of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Tonight is the night of Ali Asghar. the youngest Shaheed and the greatest Shaheed. He plays the role in the martyrdom, in the shahadat of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, as one would say that he is like the nukta taht al-ba of Bismillah. You know how that one little dot, right, for the narrative of Amirul Mumineen, that if the whole Quran is summoned in one chapter, it will be Surah Hamd. And if the whole Hamd is summoned, is brought in one verse, and that is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And if this whole Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is brought in one reality, in one phenomena, and that is the dot below the ba. And I am that ba, Ali says, right? That's why wherever Ali turns, the Haqq will turn that way. Not that the Ali turns towards the Haqq, no. The Haqq will turn towards Ali alayhi salam. So it's that dot, but it is so powerful. The same way it's a 6-month-old baby, but he's so strong and powerful. You know, he is the leader of this whole tragedy and saga that took place in Karbala. As you all know that his birth is in Rajab. And we mentioned when we were discussing about the Safar of Imam Husayn that Ali Asghar was only few days. Rajab to Karbala is 6 months. It was only few days. And it's even 9th of Rajab apparently. And one of the reasons why tonight, there is, as we said in Maqatil, there's a sir. There's a lot of secrets that we still need to unfold, to understand. Why did Imam Husayn tonight asked that give us one night so that we worship, so that we do astaghfar, so that we recite Quran, so that we pray. And you all know that how much I love prayers. Imam Husayn, because they wanted to ambush, they wanted to have the war on the 9th. But Imam Husayn said, give us a night. Because Asghar will be 6 months old. And a 6-month-old ram is the limit of a sacrifice. You know, when you go for Qurbani and you look for an animal, you know, the recommendation is that the animal should be 6 months old for that Qurbani. So Husayn says, give us one night. You know, it will be Ashura. Wal Fajr, Walayali al-Ashr, Surah Fajr in Quran, right? The 10 nights, you know, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have taken the promise, right? It is that, because in this Surah Fajr itself, it ends up with, Ya ayyatuha al-nafs al-mutma'inna, irja'i ila rabbika radiyatan mardiyah. That tranquil soul, return to Allah who is pleased with you. But it begins with al-Fajr, of that dawn, of that Fajr. What Fajr? The Fajr of Azan Ali Akbar, right? And those 10 nights which were so powerful. Allah makes an oath, as we said last night, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes oath of those things which are powerful, which are valuable in His eyes. وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ وَالْعَصْرِ وَالشَّمْسِ وَالضُّحَاهَا. He's making an oath, right? Because those things are very valuable near Allah. It has a value to it. But he says, Wal Fajr, that Fajr has a value. Those 10 nights are valuable. So there are so much of secret, asrar, secrets in the Maqatil, in the martyrdom of Imam Husayn on the day of Ashura, before that we still need to discover. So 9th night is that night, the night of Husn and Ali Asghar alayhi salam, as we say that when he was in the lap of Fatima Sughra, the daughter of Imam Husayn, who remained in Medina because as she was ill, she did not join Imam Husayn alayhi salam. And Asghar was in the lap of Fatima Sughra and wasn't leaving. And then Imam Husayn went and said something in the ear. We mentioned on the first night And for some of those brothers and sisters who are here, I'm repeating it. And Husayn mentioned something, and the child throwed himself to Husayn, the same way as the child throwed himself out of the cradle on the day of Ashura. Why? Because Husayn said the same thing. He says, Hal min nasir yansuruna? And Asghar said, here I am. Few days, and then few months. Yes, one may be a bit shocked or bewildered or surprised to see that how can that be possible? The question is the question of mindfulness. The question is the question of awareness of what is happening and giving value to that. Although many of the young lads who've been sitting, who've been brought by their parents, may Allah protect them all and make them strong supporters and soldiers of the 12th Imam, the young ones who are always here, mashallah, with their parents. They have a sense of understanding. The same child, he may not be comprehending and understanding what I am saying, what you all are doing, to the maximum capacity. And the child may go outside and play or busy himself with something, right? But if you ask him later on, where were you? There will be a sense of remorse within that child. Although the child doesn't understand anything, but still inside, something will tell that person, that little child, that no, I should have been in the Majlis of Imam Husayn. This is a question of that mindfulness or that awareness, and it's different in different child. It could be, a 6-month-old or a 4-month-old or a 2-month-old. That's why, and that's how, a child creates that relationship, understands fully. Leave aside in the dunya, but when it is in the belly of the mother, the child understands. It's a question of that awareness. Some of the children are so aware that it responds. And we are talking about, common human intellectuals or common human intellectuals who have that capacity of that aql. And here we are talking about Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. So the child responds even in the belly. Siddiqa Kubra spoke to Fatimatu Zahra Salamullah alayha while she was in the belly of the mother. Right? So we have Ali Asghar who have that understanding, that ma'rifat, that knowledge, that sense of responsibility towards Imam Husayn alayhi salam, towards Islam, towards that sacrifice. So the possibility is there that the child reacts and responds in its own way. It doesn't have a zaban as such that I am here to help you, but it's speaking in its own fashion. So tonight is that night to acknowledge the sacrifice of Ali Asghar, who was 6-month-old. Inshallah, at the time of Masaib, we'll discuss more in regards to the greatest Shaheed, Ali Asghar, from the Ashab and Awlad of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. We've been discussing the Dua Arafa of Imam Husayn, and the purpose of that discussion was in order to see the strength of Imam Husayn, in order to see the understanding of Imam Husayn. What made this man the man who acted the way he acted on the day of Ashura? Because we said Dua Arafa is theoretical in terms of Tawheed, in terms of Ma'rifat. The way Imam Husayn understand, he is speaking out. He's speaking about theory in the dua. It's full of Tawheed. The Dua Arafa is full of Tawheed. And our maktab, our deen, our purpose is all nothing but Tawheed in the nutshell. All of our activity is nothing for that. The Nabuwat is for that, the Imamat is for that, the Adalat is for that, the Qiyamat is for that. All in all is for Tawheed. All of these majalis is for that we understand. Yazid wanted to uproot Tawheed. And he thought by punishing Imam Husayn, by persecuting the Ahl Bayt alayhim salam, he will uproot Tawheed. But it backfired. It established Tawheed to the strongest. Right? So here, the Dua Arafa tends to point out to provides us with an insight to the personality of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, who Imam Husayn is in terms of his ma'rifat. And we said in this dua, we find the gems and the principles that are there, indicates the full and maximum capacity of a human soul that can comprehend Tawheed. You would find that in Dua Arafa in a most beautiful way. Now, on the day of Ashura, Imam Husayn acted. Imam Husayn showed that Tawheed in practice. If that was Tawheed ilmi, and on the day of Ashura was Tawheed amali, was Tawheed in action. That was in Tawheed in knowledge, in theory, on the day of Ashura. So where he got that strength on the day of Ashura is because of that Dua Arafa that we find, and we may have some understanding. In the end part of the dua, which is actually, some of the books of duas have it, some of them they don't have it. Sayyid ibn Ta'us, a great scholar, he have brought this dua in Iqbalul Amal, the end part of this Dua Arafa, which he continues, which he attaches to the Dua Arafa of Imam Husayn alayhi salam. And it indicates that it belongs to that dua, although there may not be a strong sanad as such vis-a-vis the beginning part of the dua, which is the Dua Arafa. See, there are two ways of rectifying or solidifying or accepting a narrative from Imam Masoom. Sometimes you have the sanad, which means the chain of narrators, which is intact. And then we say that, okay, this is 100%. Because every person in the chain which is coming from the Imam is 100%. Sometimes it is only one chain. So that narration becomes a narration of that you could rely upon. But some of the narrations are known to be mutawatir, which means that it has been continuously mentioned by different chains. Right? For example, I'm giving a speech here. Then every person who is here will go and speak to 10 different people. So it becomes like 10 chains. That's why the Ghadir event of Man Kuntu Mawla Fahada Aliyan Mawla, it is a mutawatir tradition. That it has come from many traditions. That, Ali is the successor. It's a mutawatir hadith. Some of them are only one chain. Rasulullah saw Abu Zar, and he just mentioned to Abu Zar. And Abu Zar went and mentioned to another person and another person. Because Abu Zar is a very trustworthy person, we'll say that we'll accept this. Or there could be some other person, only one person have heard. That person is not really trustworthy. So we will respect that. And, it will come under the different category of hadith. There are different categories of hadith, right? Now here, when it comes to solidifying, rectifying, accepting a narration from an Imam Masoom, you have that chain, intact, everything. But some of them, there is a chain, but that chain is either weak, or if that chain is, somebody is dropped in that chain. A person, Abu Bazar mentioned to another person mentioned to another person, but between these two persons, there's a generation gap. One person is missing. How come? So that narrative becomes a bit weak. But in the case of Masumin alayhim salam, we say that, okay, you have that chain as well, where you could say and you would accept, but even if there are weak chains, then you will look at the matter in that hadith, or in that dua, or in that ziyarat that have come from a Masoom. And if the substance and the matter that exists within that riwayat, it tells that this is from the caliber of a Masoom, and no one can mention this. Our ulama, our scholars can differentiate between, you don't give the name of the Imam and you give them the hadith, they will say that this is from Imam Rada alayhi salam. Because they have continuously read what has come from what his style is. They recognize that. They will say, oh, this is from Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq alayhi salam, without even giving them the name. Because they are day in and day out dealing with the narratives of Masumin alayhi salam. They will figure it out. So the same way, when you look at the matter of some of the du'as or ziyarat or a riwayat, and it indicates in regards, it is deep, and it indicates that this must be, the chain may be weak, but this is from a Masum, because the style is there, because the substance is there, which is talking about, Tawheed or Ma'ad or hereafter or some very deep theological narratives that we have. There's a book which Sheikh Saduq, he has done, known as a Tawheed al-Saduq. It's a very fascinating book. All riwayat he has compiled together from Masumin alayhi salam on Tawheed, on oneness of God, on monotheism. So this end part of the dua, Sayyid ibn Taus, who himself is well recognized to be the greatest of scholar, and he was the teacher of Allama Hilli as well. Allama Majlisi and others praise this great scholar, and he has brought this. And there was a hidden relationship of him and the 12th Imam been mentioned as well. He says that Imam Husayn continued dua Arafa, and then he comes in the conclusion of the dua and he says this: Ilahi ana faqirun fi ghinaik. Ilahi, O Allah, I am faqir in terms when I am rich. I am rich, but in reality I am faqir. Ilahi ana faqirun fi ghinaik. فكيف لا أكون فقيرا في فقري. How will I not be poor when I don't have? When I have, I am poor. How can I not be poor when I am poor already? Look the way, the beauty. How beautifully Imam Husayn alayhi salam is connecting and speaking to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's supplicating to Allah. The supplication shows the state of a person. It shows his ma'rifat and his understanding. His knowledge of that person is reflected. When a poetry gives a poetry, it points out to that how knowledgeable the poet is. Mir Anis, when he's writing a marsiya, it clearly knows that this person have gone through the riwayat and ayat of the Quran. Based on that, he is writing a poetry. So when Imam Ma'soom recites a dua, speaks about the dua, as we said, it points out to that how deep the understanding and the knowledge the Imam have in regards to that particular day. If it's Shab Qadr, or if it's a Friday dua, it's a Monday dua, Tuesday dua from the Masumin alayhi salam. It particular to that day, and also vis-a-vis what has been revealed and manifested on that day, because dhalika huwa fi shan. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has his own shan, has his own sort of reality that he delivers, that he manifests, that he reflects every time. It's a continuous manifestation of his jalal and jamal, and every time it is different. If you stand at a shore and you have the waves coming one after the other, and every wave is different to the previous wave in terms of its sound, in terms of its shape, in terms of its beauty, in terms of its reality. The same way Allah is known as to be Khaliq, and He's continuously creating. It's like we breathing. When we breathe out, the Sufi masters describe this as this. When we breathe out, when we exhale, it's creation. When we inhale, it is qiyamah. And the way we are hayy, we are alive, we are breathing in and breathing out, Allah is continuously creating and destroying, creating and destroying. There is always creation and qiyamah, creation and qiyamah. It's just a continuous process. And some of the angels, as they say, Imam Khomeini mentioned this adab of salat as well, some of the angels are in a state of ruku and completely unaware of that Allah is creating and destroying, because in the state of mad and praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't even know that all of this creation have been created and have been destroyed. They are doing ruku and sajda for billions, millions, there's no, obviously it's beyond time. Right. So therefore, a person, when he is supplicating to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it points out to his magnanimity, his maqam, his reality. So he's saying, Ilahi, ana faqirun fi ghinaik. That's the true reality. And we know that. Qarun, with all of that rich treasures and king of kings, Fir'aun, he was faqir. He was falling short. All of this khulafa who usurped the throne from Ahl Bayt alayhi salam, Ma'mun Rashid, he requests the Imam that, oh Imam, when I will go to a battlefield, please give me the hirs. Here's a jawad, which is very famous, that he engraves that on his armor to protect his life. He is the king, but he's faqir. In one narration it says that they arrested the 10th Imam, and the Khalifa brought him and he said, we found money in your house and you're trying to plot against me. Imam says, go ask your mother. He said, what? He says, go ask your mother. Then he asked the mother, and the mother says, when you were ill and there was no cure for you, I did nazar that if you get better, I will give money to Imam Hadi. Right? So when a person is rich and he has everything, still that person is faqir. Still that person is in need. So Imam is saying that, Ilahi ana faqirun fi ghinaik. How can I not be faqir when I'm faqir? There are 4 types of faqr. In one of the journals, Dr. Shumali have discussed this in detail, that he speaks about 4 types of faqr. There's a type of faqr where a person do not have the ability to generate money. He's a faqir, he cannot. Either the society have cornered him because of that, have not appreciated, not utilized, and it is because of that he's in a state of faqr, he's in a state of poverty. That's one type of faqr that we find. There's another type of faqr, and that is poverty with volunteering. A person is rich, but at the same time, he carries himself in a fashion that he is poor, simple life. Amirul Mu'mineen would sit on the pulpit, on the mimbar, and will give khutbah and will do like this. Why? He's drying his clothes because he has only one shirt. Although he's very rich, digging wells was not easy, making gardens was not easy. He would dig wells and he will get so much money. He would build gardens and he will get so much money. He was very rich, but he will all serve in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he would live in a very simple life. And we all know that his food and so on and so forth. Right? So a person is rich, but at the same time have a lifestyle which is very simple. They say that there was one very rich tajir, very rich business person in Tehran, but the food he ate was very simple, just like Amirul Mu'mineen. And they asked me, you're so rich, people may think that this person is stingy. One should be stingy towards one's own nafs, not stingy towards the family, towards the wife and children, towards brothers and sisters, towards the community, towards oneself, yes. He says that because the halal money is so valuable that I don't feel deserved to be spent that money on me, because it is so valuable. I don't want to spend on me and get wasted, so to speak. That's why I live very simple. That's why Amirul Mu'mineen also calls the farmer as he was working, making gardens and so on. So he brings in a food which was, what do you have for food? The lunchtime comes, they are sitting together. What do you have for food? He said, he was shy to share that. He said, very simple, he had like kadu, right? Kadu, not aubergine. What do you say kadu in English? Pumpkin. Very simple pumpkin, And then they both ate. And Imam Ali said that a belly that can be filled with this pumpkin, what is required to have? Don't make your belly like the graveyard. Another hadith of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Right. So, a person is rich, have the capability and ability, but at the same time, by choice, wants to have a simple life, which is recommended. That's also faqr in a way. It's a poverty in a way. There's the third type of faqr, and that is the poverty on the Day of Judgment. A person will, as they say that, a person will be bankrupt on the Day of Judgment. And somebody being bankrupt and somebody being faqir on the Day of Judgment, I don't know. That's why you have Mawlaya, Amirul Mu'mineen Munajat. Anta Mawla, wa ana al-abd, wa hal yarhamu al-abd illa al-Mawla. Ana faqir, anta ghani, wa hal yarhamu al-faqir illa al-ghani. That is Ali, who is rich, but look the way he is vis-a-vis Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Where do we stand, If it wasn't for these gatherings, our love for Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, we would have no hope. And we spoke about, we do commit sins. Later on, Imam Husayn alayhi salam, in this very dua as well, he mentions that later on about this faqr. He says that, Ha ana atawassalu ilayka bifaqri. Oh Allah, with this realization that I'm faqir, I'm utilizing this itself as a wasila to reach you. So as we said that yes, we commit sins, and as we said, you have to put other du'as with the du'as of Masumeen or other hadiths or narratives of Masumeen to understand other narratives of Masumeen. In Munajat Shabaniya, Amirul Mu'mineen, he says that, Ilahi, I connect to you by the wasila of my sins itself. I'm using my sins as a wasila itself to connect you to you. Sallallahu Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. I really want to read the Ilahi qad jurtu ala wa in kana وإن كان قد دنا عجلي ولم يدنني منك عملي فقد جعلت الإقرار my إقرار بالذنب إليك وسيلتي. Oh Allah, if my time of death is near and my deeds have not brought me close to you, I make this confession of my sins to be the means of approaching you. Look how beautiful. It's a treasure. Du'as, khutbat, riwayat, their life story of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. It's a treasure. We have to read the translation. We have that. We have Saif Sajjadiya, we have Munajat Shabaniya, we have Dua Arafa. And we are reminded year after year. Today is Dua Arafa day. We have to recite Dua Arafa. Month of Ramadan, Joshan Kabir. Month of Ramadan, Makarimul Akhlaq. These are reminders for us, which we have to take with us and bring it into our daily routine. Sometimes just open Munajat, just read the translation, how beautiful it is. It will take us to a different universe altogether. So in this, Imam Husayn alayhi salam, see, he's been trained by his father in Munajat, which is Munajat Amirul Mu'mineen of Amirul Mu'mineen, not Munajat Shabaniya, which is of Amirul Mu'mineen. In that, Amirul Mu'mineen say, I'm using the sin as a wasila to come to near you. Here in this, Imam Husayn says, I'm using that faqr itself to connect to you. So the faqr of the Day of Judgment. How it will be? Like, for example, on the Day of Judgment, first and foremost, my amal that I have committed, I cannot really rely upon that as such. And then the Day of Judgment happens. Here I am raised. I am faqir, I have nothing. Because the levels of the hereafter, of barzakh, is unimaginable. Min qillat zat. The fourth Imam is saying, as in like in worry. I'm worried about what I have gathered in this dunya is so little. And the path and the journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so humongous, is so huge, is so long. I have gathered very little. We go for a hike. Here, mashallah, there's a lot of mountains, and thanks to Wali Bhai, we went on a hike, during these 10 days. And I was mentioning him just very in the margin as it came up. When we went on a hike, I asked him a question, Brother Wali, do you feel the presence? I'm sorry to say, I will be critical. I may be called, what do you call this term that they use? It will come to me, did you feel the presence of Allah more when you went on a hike? We had a bit of a discussion. He gave us good points to me. Or was it in the julus that we went? Unfortunately, it was a chaos. I'm sorry to say. The julus in Los Angeles, you all have a responsibility to do something about it. The people in San Diego, the people in Los Angeles, our senior members, elderly members, you need to put the young down and sit with them and tell them off about the julus. It did not look like we are sad and we are commemorating. It looked like a festival. So I asked him, the presence of Allah and the presence, spirituality, did you feel on the hike more or here? What's going on? Right? It wasn't there, unfortunately. That we all, I included myself, we really have to do something about it. Sallallahu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. May Allah accept, the sincerity. I'm not saying the sincerity is not there. Who are we to judge? I am worse. Right? The sincerity is there. A person might come just for one day. That is good. This julus is good. It is there. It's been there. It's been carrying. They've been doing that. May Allah jaza give them that reward. But we have to improve. We don't have to just let go. So on that Day of Judgment, I have very little. Now, with this little that I have, or I don't have anything, somebody will say that, you have done this against me in the dunya, in this world. Now, in order to repay me, you have to give me. I have nothing in the first place to give. What state? I will be in the state of faqr. I will be poor, in the state of need, utmost need. I already have nothing. And now, because of the sins that I have committed, because of those things that I have done, the zulm that I have done, the oppression that I have done, the backbiting that I have done, the whispered talks and so on, whatever I have done in the dunya, I have usurped the property, so on and so forth. And then I've been asked on the Day of Judgment that you have done in this person, against this person, you have to give to that person, give to this person, give to this person. That's the greatest faqr on the Day of Judgment. The third type of faqr. The fourth type of faqr is the faqr of manavi, spirituality. These are the four types that we can probably come up with, as mentioned in one of the articles, right? And that is the spirituality. And that's what Abu Abdullah Husayn is pointing out to, that ana faqirun. with all of that I have, still I have. That's why Rasulullah said that, Rabbi zidni ilma, ma arafnaka haqqa ma'rifatik, ma abadnaka haqqa ibadatik. Oh Allah, I haven't worshipped you. Who is saying this? Rasulullah is saying this. Rasulullah, who would stand in prayers at night and his feet will be swollen. That Rasul is saying that ma abadnaka haqqa ibadatik. Oh Allah, I haven't worshipped you the way I should really worship you. He is saying that. That's faqr ma'nawi. And that brings humility and humbleness. That brings humility and humbleness in that person. That's how the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam were. And just before Rasulullah left this world, he gathered everybody. And he said, have I done anything against you? And if I have done anything against you, I'm about to leave this dunya, come and do the same thing towards me before I go. One person stood up and he says, Rasulullah, we were in a battle and then you pushed me and you hurt my shoulder. Then everybody looked at this person. And Rasulullah said, okay, come. And then he came and Rasulullah moved the shoulder and this man started crying. He said, I just wanted to kiss your shoulder. Rasulullah is in that state. He's saying that's faqr ma'nawi. That makes that person humble. Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam were like that. The scholars, ulama, who are on that level of spirituality, they are like that. The next jumla where Imam Husayn alayhi salam says that, Ilahi, ana jahilun fi ilmi, فَكَيْفَ لَا أَكُونُ جَهُولًا فِي جَهَالِ. Oh Allah, I am jahil, I am ignorant in relation to the knowledge that I have. Even after having all of the knowledge, I'm still not jahil. Is not the humanity jahil compared to science, compared to planets and whatnot? It's out there. We have no idea. We don't know our telescope can only reach to the point of Big Bang. There was something before Big Bang for sure, but we cannot see. I was mentioning earlier that I was traveling with somebody who was from Italy. He makes documentaries. I have to still touch base with him. And he was making a documentary on the creation of the universe based on spiritual traditions and based on scientific traditions. Metaphysical traditions and physical traditions. And he was going to Iceland and he wanted to interview some Nordic priest or somebody, and how Nordics realize in regards to the creation and so on and so forth. And then we were discussing and it came up that, and recently there was a article in BBC as well that they have some sort of analysis in regards to what was before Big Bang. And one of the things that came up in the discussion, as he was he was a physics teacher as well, was that before the Big Bang, from the analysis, from the empirical science, from the experimental science, as we realize, the possibility of it to be something that is liquid. There was liquid even before the Big Bang. Because liquid have the ability to transform. It is liquid that becomes vapors, it is liquid that moves, it is liquid. So liquid have that ability to give life. So maybe there was Big Bang, but even before Big Bang there was an ocean of, liquid. And this is once again very symbolic. Liquid, as there's a narration which says the throne of Allah, the arsh of Allah sits on an ocean. That's where the throne of Allah sits. And mashallah, there is, symbolic reality in regards to ocean, life. The Quran says life comes from water, so on and so forth, whatnot. So we are jahil. We have no knowledge. With this little knowledge, we are so arrogant. We think that we know everything. We haven't even figured out our own body, the intricacies, the complexities, the details of our own body, we haven't figured out. Leave aside outside. The whole, as a matter of fact, they recently found an element in our body which is gold. Very recently. You can check them out. And there was somebody who was interpreting that. There's a saying which is dedicated, or which has been mentioned, that it's from the first Imam, that you think yourself of a small entity, but the whole macrocosm is in you. So that means that all the elements that is in the creation will be in insan. So all the periodical table of chemistry, if you go one by one, it was so difficult for me to memorize, that's why I didn't get into chemistry. If you go one by one, and there was gold too, and people used to say that, human body does not have gold. But very recently, they discovered, that's why this periodical table is open. Some of the boxes is nothing in there because they're still discovering. So recently they say that human being, insan, also have gold in them, which coordinates, which echoes, which Hazrat Amir have said. The whole creation is in us. All of the elements. The same way, that's how, the source of knowledge, in our Islamic discipline, how it's taught in the hawzas and how it's what's taught. If you look at, there's a very beautiful book for our youngsters I'm mentioning, Young Muslim Guide to the Modern World by Sayyid Husayn Nasr. It's a must read, especially for our youngsters. Points out to that how advanced and knowledgeable Muslim scientists were before Renaissance. All that we have today in terms of science, we are indebted to Muslim scientists. But where we are now, unfortunately, we just feel proud that, oh, hum to aise the, what are you now? You know what I mean? So that is a very important book to have and to read. So I don't want to take much of a time. There's a lot to discuss in regards to that. So here is that there's all knowledge, but still we are jahil. I have left some of the points. I'm still jahil. And then Hazrat Amir says, Imam Husayn says that how can I not be jahil, not knowing, in my jahil itself? How much we know. Imam Khomeini would never allow, after his class, students to walk with him. He would not allow. Why? Because there is a hadith which says that, be aware of your nafs and of your soul, that when you have people walking with you, your nafs will feel something. Don't get trapped of that I'm of something. I know, I have that knowledge, but I know nothing. I'm jahil. I have no knowledge. And whatever I have, as a matter of fact, is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Many people lose what they know with an accident or with something, or before the memory loss and so on and so forth. They had that, but it's gone. We always think that we possess things, whether that be faqr, whether that be knowledge as well. We use a car or we use something, they think it belongs to me. No, it doesn't. The real Malik is somebody else. In one of the books, which is Risale Wilaya Wallama Tabatabai, into the being the ICAS Press, Islamic College of London have translated this book. It discusses the principles of the metaphysical reality of Malikiyat, ownership. Insan by nature believes in Allah. Insan by nature believes in the ownership, everything, the ownership belongs to Allah and no one else. And based on that, as it is in his nature, comes up and make qawaneen, make rules. And that's what this relative ownership is, and accepts it without ifs and buts. If I have I have these glasses in my hand, you will say, oh, the owner is yours. You are the owner of it. Where is it written? There's no proof as such that, oh, it belongs to me. But because I have it, you say, no, it belongs to you. And this becomes a rule, the rule of ownership, that whoever is in its hand, it belongs to them. That ownership. This accepting the principle of ownership is a metaphysical principle that comes from believing in the malikiyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Anyway, not to get into philosophy. So we are jahil, even after knowing everything. How can we not be jahil when we are jahil? This is Husayn on the day of Arafa. This is how he's connecting. This is type of person can only lead and take the companions to that highest level of manaviyah, of that qurb, of that nearness. That's why this dua becomes the source and foundation of mystical principles within Islamic mysticism. It becomes that source. All the Arafa or the Sufis or whatnot you want to talk about, they are not even a single drop compared to Abu Abdullah al-Husayn, compared to this dua that is there. They may have written thousands of poetries and books, but this dua Arafah is something else. Is the treasure, is the very foundation, is the very root of all of that. And Husayn led each and every one of them, made them reach that maqam. That's why when we recite in the ziyarat, we address them as Assalamu alaikum ya awliya Allahi wa ahibba'o. We address them as awliya. They are the walis. And what type of wali? Ahibba'o, those who did muhabbat, those who loved, which is the highest level we spoke about muhabbat. The highest level of character or quality that a human can refine is this quality of love, pure love to the beloved. And who managed that to make them awliya? Hur was not a wali from the wali, but he had that wali material in him. Husayn crystallized it. Zuhair, we spoke about him. He wasn't wali. He was a different maktab altogether to begin with. But he had that substance, that potential. We all have that potential. That is a fitrah. That's our intrinsic nature. Who changed it? Who took Zuhair from being from those who are not supporters of Imam Husayn, or Hur from being enemy of Imam Husayn alayhi salam, to the wali, awliya, to the wali. To that level, Imam Husayn did. Each and every one of them. He played that role. He pulled them. And that soul of Husayn still calls. That call of Hal min nasir yansuruni, Hal min nasir yansurana or yansuruni, that call is still there. Because the journey of Tawheed never ends. It's an ongoing journey. If we say labbaik to the call of Husayn, that labbaik ya Husayn is actually labbaik to Allah. Labbaik to that ma'rifat of Husayn, that's labbaik ya Husayn. Labbaik to the understanding, to the vision which Husayn have, is labbaik to that. And we have to work towards it. And these gatherings, these majalis is for that. And the wasila, the medium and the vehicle, is that love and that tear for Husayn. It does wonders. That is why Abdul Karim Hairi, the Marja, the founder of the seminary of Qum, every time he would give a lesson, dars Kharij, but in the end he would give few minutes of Masaib of Imam Husayn. Sayyid Qazi, Allama, we have already spoken all of that. How much of bahjat, how much of ihtimam, how much of value and importance they paid to the majalis of Imam Husayn. One jumla from Allah Tabatabai, and I'll do Masaib. Allah Tabatabai says that whatever I have done in my life, writing books, tafsir of Mizan, the best of tafsir, taught students, trained students, Hassan Zadeh, Jawad Amali, Ayatollah Mamduhi, Ayatollah Khamna, you name it. All of this, whatever I have done in my whole life, entire life, serving and writing, Allama Tabatabai, who not even took a day off except the day of Ashura. Because he finished Mizan on the night of Qadr. When he signs it, he finishes the introduction, it is Shab Qadr, is the night of Qadr. Except on the day of Ashura, he worked, writing. He says, whatever I have done in all my life, if it be so that I am ready and willing to exchange whatever I have in return to the one marsiya khani of a person. The recitation of one eulogy, the recitation of one marsiya of a person, the reward that this person gets for that recitation, I am willing to give all of that I have. That is Husayn. And that is the marsiya khani of Husayn. And tonight is the night of the Lakhte Jigar, the Noor Ain, the apple of the heart of Husayn, Ali Asghar. And also it's a night, a very heavy night for the 12th Imam. It's a night in which we should give sadaqah for the 12th Imam. It's very important to give sadaqah for it. You and I becomes in that state that just if we sit in a corner and just reflect upon what happened to Imam Husayn alayhi salam and how Imam Husayn alayhi salam is, naturally the tears will flow in our hearts. It will flow to a point that we may not control ourselves. We may be called crazy. If we just continue thinking about what happened, honestly speaking. Imagine we are like this. How is Yusuf Zahra? How is our Imam tonight? In what state is he? What is he thinking about tonight? In Ziyarat-e-Nahiya, as we recite, an Imam who cries blood every day. There is a difference in every day and there is a difference in the eve of Ashura. It's a heavy night. Husayn gives the khutbah after Maghrib to the Ashab. Very famous khutbah. Google it, read it. The khutbah that he gave on the eve of Ashura. Very deep khutbah. And then after that, he puts the lights off. And he says, the path is open. Go, whoever wants to go. You have done your share. You have fulfilled your responsibility and you have fulfilled your duty. May Allah reward you for what you have done. And I take my bay'ah, my allegiance from you. And I guarantee you the shafa'at of Rasulullah. I guarantee you Jannah. You will not be questioned at all. That why you did not help the Imam. You will not be questioned. Go back. Save your life. Protect your children. Take your family and leave. Nobody will stop you from leaving. Even the enemies will not do anything because they want Husayn to be left alone. Because on the day of Ashura, as we recite, on the eve of Ashura in the Sham-e-Ghariban, the bodies were claimed by the family members. The narrative says there was only one body in the plain of Karbala, which went under the hooves of the horses, and that was the body of Husayn. Zainab raises the hand and he says, is there anyone to claim the body of son of Zahra? So they want to leave Husayn alone. So the enemies will not attack you. Go, leave. The path is open. The silence was in the assembly. And this silence was broken by Abul Fazl Abbas. He paid allegiance. Everybody paid allegiance. After this meeting, Husayn comes out because it's a very important night. And he recommended everybody to busy in their du'as and prayers, amal. So it's a night of amal tonight. And then after that, he is attending and visiting every tent and looking what is happening in that tent. He goes and to the tent of Layla. He sees Layla with Ali Akbar, preparing Ali Akbar for the battle. Goes to the tent of Rabab. Tonight is the night of Ali Asghar. Farwa, Hazrat Qasim, Rabab, the mother of Ali Asghar. As he enters, Husayn sees that every tent there is a bit of joy. They are saying, tomorrow we should be proud of you and you should sacrifice your life. Nobody is sad. Nobody is happy. Everybody is happy. There is joy. But Rabab is crying. Rabab says that, oh Husayn, I'm thankful to Allah that I became the daughter-in-law of Fatima. What a great honor. But when I look at other ladies, they all have young, strong children that they can sacrifice their life for you. I have only two, which is Asghar, who is 6 months old. And I have Sakina, both are too young. The little girl cannot go in the battlefield. And the little Ali Asghar obviously cannot. Then Husayn says that, no, wait and see what Asghar will do tomorrow. His sacrifice is the greatest sacrifice that one can imagine. and the parting of the farewell of Husayn on the day of Ashura with Sakina is the greatest musibat for Husayn. The sacrifice and the martyrdom of Asghar uprooted the kufr and made the Karbala a victory for Husayn. And the cries of Sakina in the prison of Sham uprooted the kufr in Sham and made the whole Sham Husayni, and that's why we have today. So Rabab was like this. Then he goes in the tent of Zainab. Zainab is speaking to On and Muhammad, preparing them, tying the amama of Ja'far al-Tayyar, tying the amama of Haydar al-Karrab. And then Zainab started speaking to the father. And she says that, oh brother, have you tested your companions? Because she has seen how they have betrayed Rasulullah. She has seen how they have betrayed her father Ali, how they have betrayed Imam Hassan, brother. So she says, tomorrow is the day of test. Tomorrow is the day of battle. Have you tested your companions? This was heard by Habib ibn Mazahir. When Habib ibn Mazahir hears this, he goes to the tents of Muslim ibn Awsaja, Zuhair Aqain, Hani, and then he tells them that this is what the daughter of Ali is thinking. This is what the sister of Ali is thinking. Come, let's go and assure Zainab that we are here to sacrifice our life. They all came together to the tent of Zainab. She was inside and they said salams, and he said, oh बीबी हम तैयार है, अगर आप चाहती हैं कि इसी वक्त सबने तलवार अपने नियामों से लिखा ली है और गर्दन पर रखी है, और कहते हैं कि इसी वक्त हम तैयार हैं कि हम अपनी गर्दन कलम कर दे और इस सर को हाथ में लेके आपके लिए तकदीम करें। ज़ैनब को सुकून आया, ज़ैनब को इत्मीनान हुआ कि हुसैन के साथ असहाब है, और ऐसे असहाब इसीलिए हुसैन फरमाते हैं कि मेरे असहाब ऐसे हैं कि ना मेरे भाई ना मेरे बाबा के पास ऐसे असहाब थे, इस किस्म के असहाब। फिर उसके बाद आशूर का दिन आया, एक के बाद एक शहीद रन में जाता गया, अपनी जानों को कुर्बान करता गया। जोर आशूर हुई, नमाज हुई, अबू सुमामा की शहादत हुई, हबीब इब्न मज़ाहिर की शहादत हुई, मुस्लिम इब्न औसजा शहीद हुए, अली अकबर शहीद हुए, कासिम शहीद हुए, अबुल फजल अब्बास की भी शहादत हो गई। अब हुसैन अकेले हैं। जब हुसैन मैदान के तरफ जाते हैं, हुज्जत को तमाम करते हैं और अपनी सदा बुलंद करते हैं, हल मिन नासिर यंसुरनी, आया कोई है जो हुसैन की मदद करने वाला है।
اور حسین اپنے آپ کو ہمیشہ، آپ دیکھیں گے خطبات میں، مقاتل میں لکھا گیا ہے، حسین نے کہا ہے کہ آیا کوئی ہے فاطمہ کے لال کو مدد کرنے والا؟ فاطمہ کے انا ابن الزہرا، حسین نے کہا میں زہرا کا بیٹا ہوں. زہرا جو رسول خدا کی بیٹی ہے، میں اس کا بیٹا، رسول کا نواسا ہوں. اس طرح سے اپنے آپ کی معرفی کی ہے، کوئی ہے. اور جب حسین نے یہ صدا بلند کی، قیام میں گریہ کی آواز آنے لگی. حسین واپس لوٹے ہیں، اگر ماجرا کیا ہے، آخر گریہ کس بات کا ہے؟ حسین جب آپ نے یہ صدا بلند کی ہے، ہر من ناصر، یہ چھوٹا بچہ، یہ علی اصغر گہوارے سے اپنے آپ کو باہر گرا دیا ہے. امام کہتے ہیں میں اس کی زبان سمجھتا ہوں، اور پھر اس بچے کے پاس پانی نہیں ہے، 3 دن کی بھوک اور پیاس ہے، اور حسین اس کے حوالے کہتے ہیں کہ شاید میں اس اصغر کو لے جاؤں، شاید کچھ پانی دے دے اشقیا. میں عرض کر رہا تھا آپ کی خدمت میں، امام حسین نے مختلف طریقوں سے دشمنوں کے دل میں انسانیت کو جاگنے کی کوشش کی ہے. قاسم کو دولہا جو بنا کے بھیجا گیا ہے، جو روایتوں میں ملتا ہے، شاید اس کی وجہ یہی ہو کہ وہ ان کے اندر انسانیت جاگ جائے. اور یہاں پہ حسین آ رہے ہیں، قیام میدان کے طرف آ رہے ہیں، ابا کا دامن چھپا ہوا ہے. ملعون یہ سمجھ رہے ہیں کہ حسین شاید قرآن لا رہے ہیں. ہاں، حسین قرآن ناطق لا رہے ہیں، حسین قرآن لا رہے ہیں، لیکن یہ قرآن ناطق ہے. حسین نے ابا کے دامن کو ہٹایا، علی اصغر کو اٹھایا، اور علی اصغر نے اپنی زبان لبوں پہ پھیرائی اور یہ اشارہ کیا کہ مجھے کچھ پانی دے دو. آپ تصور کریے، در حقیقت 6 ماہ بچے کو کتنے پانی کی ضرورت ہوتی ہے؟ 1 چمچہ یا 2 چمچہ پانی کی ضرورت ہوتی ہے. دشمنوں کے بیچ گریا اور وغا کی آوازیں بلند ہوئی، اور پھر حسین نے کہا تم سمجھتے ہو کہ اگر تم اس بچے کو پانی دیں گے تو میں پی لوں گا؟ بچے کو زمین پر رکھا اور دشمنوں میں کوئی ہلچل نہ ہوئی. دوبارہ بچے کو امام حسین اٹھاتے ہیں. یہاں پہ میں وہ روایت ابھی مخنف کے مقتل سے آپ کی خدمت میں پیش کروں گا، جب مختار نے ہرملہ کو گرفتار کیا، ہرملہ سے یہ پوچھا اسے قتل کرنے سے پہلے کہ ہرملہ تو بتا کہ تو نے کس طرح سے علی اصغر کو شہید کیا. ہرملہ یہاں پہ یہ فرماتا ہے، امام زین العابدین نے کسی کے مطابق نہیں پوچھا کہ مختار تم نے کیا کیا، لیکن جب یہ خبر آئی کہ حسین کے خون کا انتقام لینے کی کوشش کی گئی ہے تو امام زین العابدین نے پوچھا آخر ہرملہ کا کیا ہوا؟ بہت ہی سنگین شہادت ہے علی اصغر کی. یہاں پہ مختار نے پوچھا ہرملہ سے کہ ہرملہ تو نے کس طرح سے اصغر کو شہید کیا. ہرملہ یہ فرماتا ہے کہ میں نے 3 تیر ایسے لائے تھے جسے کہا جاتا ہے 6 شعبے والے تیر، 6 شعبے جس کے 3 جو ہے اس کی نوک تھی، 3 pointed arrows، 6 شعبے والے میں نے 3 لائے. اچھا، جب ہم تحقیق یہ کرتے ہیں کہ 6 شعبے والے جو تیر ہوتے ہیں وہ کہاں پہ استعمال کیا جاتا ہے، یہ ملتا ہے کہ 6 شعبے والا تیر یا کوئی درخت کو کاٹنے کے واسطے استعمال کیا جا سکتا ہے، یا کوئی گھوڑے کی گردن پہ چلانے کے واسطے استعمال کیا. ہرملہ نے کہا میں نے 3 6 شعبے والے تیر لائے تھے، اور 1 تیر تو میں نے حسین کے سینے پہ نشانہ کیا. حسین کے سینے پہ وہ تیر میں نے چلایا. مقاتل میں یہ ملتا ہے حسین نے اس تیر کو پیچھے سے کھینچا ہے اور وہ خون کو اپنے سینے سے جمع کیا ہے اور اس خون کو اپنے ریش مبارک سے لگایا. جو دوسرا تیر تھا، جب علی اصغر کو حسین نے اٹھایا، پانی کی مانگ کی، یہاں پہ عمر سعد نے مجھ سے کہا ہرملہ قط کلام حسین، حسین کے کلام کو کاٹ. ملو ہرملا۔ اور جب میں نے نشانہ بنایا علی اصغر کے گلے کا تو میں کیا دیکھا کہ قیام میں ایک بی بی اس بچے کی طرف نگاہ کری ہوئی ہے۔ میرا ہاتھ تھرانے لگا، میں نے تیر چلایا لیکن نشانے پہ نہیں لگا۔ عمر سعد نے کہا ہرملا واہ آخر ہو کیا گیا ہے تجھے؟ تیر نشانے پر لگا، اور پھر میں نے یہ جو تیسرا تیر تھا اصغر کے گلو کا نشانہ بنایا۔ بچہ باپ کے ہاتھ میں تھا، ایک ہاتھ میں بدن تھا اصغر کا، دوسرے ہاتھ میں سر تھا۔ یہ تیر امام حسین کے دست مبارک کو پیوست ہو گیا۔ اسی طرح سے جس طرح سے بی بی ہاجرہ 7 مرتبہ صفا مروہ میں دوڑتی ہے، حسین آگے بڑھ رہے ہیں، ان للہ و انا الیہ راجعون، پیچھے ہٹتے رضن بقضائہ و تسلیما لامرہ، آگے بڑھتے ہیں ان للہ و 7 مرتبہ۔ حسین نے بہت سے لاشیں لائے ہیں، کبھی حسین کے پاؤں تھر رہے نہیں، کبھی حسین آگے اور پیچھے نہیں گئے، لیکن جب علی اصغر کا لاشا حسین لے جا رہے ہیں، آگے بڑھتے جاتے ہیں، پیچھے ہٹتے چلے جاتے ہیں، وہ وقت آ جاتا ہے جب علی اصغر کو رباب کے گود میں دیتے ہیں اور بچے یہ پوچھتے ہیں کیا اس کی پیاس بجھا دی گئی ہے؟ ہمیں روایت تو یہ ملتا ہے کہ حسین نے صرف ایک شہید کو عاشور کے دن دفنایا ہے، وہ ہے مزار علی اصغر کو دفنایا ہے۔ اور جب لعینوں نے سر مبارک اہل بیت علیہ السلام اصحاب امام حسین کو جمع کیا، جب دیکھا کہ اس میں ایک سر جو ہے نہیں ہے، وہ کون سے شہید کا سر ہے؟ وہ ہے شہید علی اصغر کا سر ہے۔ تو کچھ ملعونوں نے کہا کہ ہم دیکھ رہے تھے کہ حسین نے اس شہید کو خیمے کے پیچھے دفنایا ہے۔ تو یہ ملعون آگے بڑھتے ہیں، نیزے کو زمین میں پڑاتے جاتے ہیں، اور جب ایک جگہ ایسا نیزہ مارا ہے کہ لاش علی اکبر خبر سے باہر آ جائے، اور یہ ننھا سا سر نیزے پہ ہوتا ہے، اور شاید یہ سر کہہ رہا ہے کہ ماں میں نیزے پہ ہوں، ماں میں نیزے پہ۔ اللہ لعنت اللہ علی قوم الظالمین، سیعلم الذین ظلموا ای منقلب ینقلبون۔ ماتم حسین یا حسین یا حسین۔